The Thinking Tackle Podcast.
Welcome to the Thinking Tackle Podcast. Now, there's nobody in the studio at the moment due to lockdown regulations, so we've decided to do things a little bit differently for you. So, coming up on today's show, we've got the man formerly known as Britain's sexiest angler. I love that. Julian Cundiff's coming on the show. Iain Macmillan's also coming on the show as well to talk about what he's been up to over the last 12 months. But to kick things off, we've got one of the best big carp anglers around and the managing director of Korda Developments, Damian Clarke. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, that's a bit of a build-up, wasn't it?
It was all right, wasn't it, that?
Well, I don't know about that, mate, at all. Well, there you go. What are you doing? You managed to get out of your house this morning then, Si?
Yeah, it was a bit flooded yesterday, wasn't it? Blimey.
Well, yeah.
You could have.
Has it gone down this morning?
It goes down. It goes down really quickly. Actually, it's like they all the locks get clogged up, and then they just let the water back out, and then it just goes down really quickly. But yeah, I said to you, didn't I? You could probably have put a bait outside our front fence yesterday.
Yeah, you could. Well, you should take them on the boats, and you could have boated down to the village or whatever.
Well, we've had that before actually, where the water's been that high. We've had people come down in a boat and actually come straight over the top of the hedge and not even realise it.
Really?
Mental. But it did rain hard, didn't it?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be. I mean, I couldn't think of anything worse flooding. Honestly, where we live, we're on the top of a hill, and down the bottom of the hill, it's all flooded. You know, there's a river and that down there. I mean, if we were to get flood water, it would be Armageddon. The polar ice caps would have to melt for us to get a flood. But that's all you need, isn't it, this time of year? It's flooding. It's horrible.
It's one extreme to the next, because this morning was freezing cold again, wasn't it? So it's just... Yeah. And it affects, I mean, fishing, you know, that's why I think up until December time, fishing is normally, it can be pretty consistent, but as soon as it starts going cold water and frosty mornings and stuff, it just bangs it on the head.
Yeah, it's shit. I mean, the water that's running through the river at the moment is just like coffee. So it's, you know, river fishing, waste of time.
Yeah. Are you exercising and keeping on top of things at the moment through this?
Yeah, I am exercising. I'm not been out fishing. You know, I'm very careful to say that there's no real local waters that we could day fish really that I want to go and day fish. So really, yeah, just stuck inside really. You know, lucky we walked down the village and stuff, but that's about it.
Is Elliot keeping you busy?
Say that again, mate.
Is Elliot keeping you busy?
Yeah, I've had to lock the door to stop him coming in, to be honest. You know, he thinks I've just retired, so I'm at his own beck and call the entire time. I mean, probably the most trying thing for most parents is home learning, which really Wendy's doing the bulk of, but on the few occasions I've got involved, that's not for me, that, teaching 4-year-olds how to spell.
So Elliot's your youngest son. I notice he's picking up a few extra words as well, mate, isn't he?
He has been, yeah, that's the phonics. You know, and he is funny. The thing is, he knows he's funny, so he takes advantage of it. He thinks he's going to be a comedian, but he keeps telling me he's a genius. So there's some hope there.
Oh, he tells you he's a genius. Wow, that's worrying.
Yeah. But we're all of the opinion that he might actually be like a serial killer in the making. You know, he's probably not going to turn out well. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't very academic at school, so he's got no chance, I don't think.
He's relying on Wendy then?
Yeah, I hope so, yeah.
Have you been doing any exercise, Tope?
No, not really. I think I'm going on a bike ride tomorrow. It's about all I've done in this lockdown.
You've been attempting to try and exercise from home, though.
Oh, you've been dying to bring this up, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, the old Toby put the DIY, put things together.
Yeah, I was so excited and so proud that I might actually be able to build it. Only for the cable not to reach. I've got one of those home gym setups, and I thread the cable all the way through the machine. It's about an inch short than it needs to be. Yeah. I'm convinced the machine's wrong.
You'll be videoing yourself, and there'll be some prime gym wankers material. People getting wrapped up in cables and stuff.
But I said to you, didn't I? Dad, the frame's wrong, mate. The frame's wrong. I haven't done it wrong.
Yeah, I think the instructions are wrong, aren't they?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, that's funny. That so you're still struggling with it, Tobe, at the moment, are you?
Yeah, I've had it a week and it's still not finished.
What'll happen is I'll have to go around there and take it apart and put it back together.
I'm surprised you haven't been round there. I guess you've got an excuse to not go round at the moment.
I'll just find it's all on backwards or something.
So Damon, with the pandemic and stuff, you know, that was, I mean, we're nearly 12 months in now. I mean, how did that affect Korda and the fishing company, the fishing industry in general?
Beginning of last year, we were aware of, you know, what was going on in China, because we've been to China, we've been to Hong Kong, and you know, I was saying at work to a few people, this is going to affect us. You know, it's going to happen. And I think there was, you know, it's the fact that it's 4,000 or 5,000 miles away, however far away China is. You know, nobody thinks that is actually going to cross the sea, and we're going to get involved in that. And in the beginning, you know, when I was sat in here talking to people on the phone at work, you know, we're going to have to shut down. And when we had the actual lockdown, it was pretty scary, to be honest. You know, we were in, I don't know, March, February, January, whenever it was, and the bank is telling us, you know, be prepared for no trading for the entire year. Well, that's impossible for us, isn't it? You know, got over 100 staff in the UK, 40 staff in Europe. That's sleepless nights for a couple of weeks, to be honest with you. So really, you know, it was really worrying times, and I've got to say thank you to the Angling Trust. I mean, I know they've been really active, but they really made the difference between a lot of businesses folding probably and them surviving, and the fishing industry being one of those industries that absolutely boomed through the COVID, because nobody could do anything. You know, especially carp companies. You've got a lot of anglers who sat home twiddling their thumbs on furlough, spending money. You know, they were buying rig stuff, you know, but buying everything, you know, and it really did help and got the fishing industry through that period. And then after that, when you had the furlough period, you've got full lakes, you've got fishing clubs that are absolutely up to capacity, you know, and then through the summer, you've got a lot of new anglers or old anglers coming back to fishing, and it was brilliant for us, absolutely brilliant, you know, for in financial terms, and keeping the company running and keeping the fishing industry in whole really buoyant. You know, brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, the Angling Trust stuff, I mean, you know, that was to get people fishing, but the consequence of that for the industry was huge as well, wasn't it?
It's enormous. I know there were some hiccups about night fishing and all that sort of thing, and then no matches and all the rest of it, but I think they're missing the point. You know, fishing was one of the only sports you could actually go and do. And, you know, hopefully now we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and, you know, next summer, not this summer coming, but the following summer, the world will be a bit different, but restrictions should be lifted and fishing should be back to normal. You know, you got to go night fishing, be able to do whatever you want. But I still think there will be the aftermath of wearing masks and all that sort of thing for people, and the variants of COVID. You know, who knows how these vaccinations are going to deal with those. So I don't think we're out of the woods yet, but, you know, the fishing industry is always going to be busy, I think.
You mentioned as well that the cost of actually importing stuff over to the country now is, the container costs now have gone through the roof as well.
Oh yeah, I mean that's there's a knock on from COVID, because there's less vessels on the ocean, and basically a lot of the shipping companies are now they're holding us to ransom. That's what they're doing. They're sending ships to the US because it's quicker and easier for them to go from Asia to the US, and in doing so they can maybe get the same container, do a trip twice, so earn double the money. So the restricted number of vessels that are coming to the UK or Europe, there's a massive premium, and you're talking about 10 times the cost from this time last year. So from $1,500 for a container, 40-foot container, to $15,000, which is enormous, isn't it? It's enormous.
And I mean, Korda's a big company, you know, but there are smaller companies around there. They're going to be feeling that pinch as well, aren't they?
Everybody's going to feel it. It's not just fishing tackle. It's going to be, you know, we must have to have a pretty big rise in inflation. So the cost of everything are going to increase. Yeah, it's pretty scary, really. I mean, like, you know, if you're selling big items like bed chairs or big televisions or, you know, fridges or those sort of things you don't get many of those in a container, that can soon add a huge amount of money onto the price. So yeah, we aren't seeing it yet because it's not for sale in the shops. But, over the next 6 to 9, 10, 12 months, whatever it is, there's going to have to be price increases on everything, I would think, comes out of Asia.
And you said, obviously, you did have a few sleepless nights, I can imagine. I mean, what were the potential consequences for the company? I mean, how bad could it have got?
I mean, Korda's financially secure. It's a sound company, but you can't trade for a year and pay 150 staff without any income coming in. It's not going to happen, is it? And the banks are pretty useless, to be honest with you. I'm very disappointed with the way they behaved. Bear in mind, they were getting, support from the government, and the government were guaranteeing any loans. We were in the shit. If we were not going to trade till the end of the year. But luckily, a few shops were trading online, and the bigger shops like Angling Direct, pulled it together. And it's got to be said, if they helped Korda because of the amount of shops they had and the amount of business they were putting through, and we were running on a skeleton staff, with cash flow going through, and we were lucky that we run on a lot of stock, we hold a lot of stock. So even at the start of the pandemic, when some of the other suppliers were panicking, we knew that based on the previous year's turnover, we had enough stock to last us till September. Once it started getting busy. That didn't last. It didn't turn out that way because the demand for product was so huge, and the increase in sales was massive by the end of the year. So, but we got through it. And, I think most of the fishing industry's got through it. I think there's been a few casualties. But, it's nice to see a lot of the little shops. We did our bit. We helped them with extended credit terms and stuff like that. And, our staff pulled us through. They really did. They worked longer hours. It was pretty humbling, to be honest, because a lot of them, we paid them all of their money, and they paid us back throughout the year by doing extra time for free. And they all did whatever was required to get the job done and make sure the company survived.
Is that the biggest kind of thing that you've learned from the whole lockdown? How good your staff were? Was there any doubt before that, or?
No, I mean, we've always been of the opinion that, we're nothing without our staff. The staff are the lifeblood of the company, and without them, without having the right staff, you're not going to have a good company. They will do whatever's required to get the job done, and they love it, and we love them. And it's a really good relationship between the managers and staff. And mate, we would not be where we are without every single one of them.
And I mean, although not everybody's in the building, obviously at the moment, at the same time, it seems to have sort of galvanised the company even more because of that.
I think so, yeah. I mean, me and Dan have done everything we can to make sure that they felt secure, and they've got paid, and all those simple things came before anything else. And their safety, obviously, and we put all the health and safety in we can. We've had visits from the HSE. We've had, we've been very lucky that the area we live and work in is quite high for COVID rates at the moment. And we've got away with the skin of our teeth with the amount of people who've actually caught it, because, we've had shift work and, reduced staff in the offices and stuff. So I think we've done well, actually, to protect them, and then them to protect us.
What about with Brexit and stuff now? I mean, we've been reading a bit of stuff recently about restrictions on being able to, take bait across to France and other European countries. Do you know much about that?
Yeah, I mean, it is an issue. It's a big issue. I mean, we distribute mainline bait for in Europe, in our European depot, but we had the foresight to send, a great deal of stock there before Brexit. Anticipating the issues we're getting through the ports because of the backlog, but that has got to be addressed. And I think I heard rumbling the angling trusts are addressing it, but however long that's going to take, I don't know. But it is a serious issue. So I don't know, mate. But that's a bigger issue than me or you can sort out. That's got to be done at a political level, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, these things are not necessarily taken into account when they, we tend to have to sort of work on these once we see what the situation actually is.
I mean, I doubt anybody in government was worrying about Carp hangers taking
I doubt it.
30 kilos of boilies and a load of tiger nuts across the France, were they? You know what I mean?
No,
but I'm sure it'll get worked out.
It will be, yeah, but I'm sure it's something that we're going to be seeing a bit of, before it does get worked out as well, possibly. But
yeah, definitely. I think Brexit is going to cause massive issues to start with, unless you've got goods that are made in the UK and then they can just ship straight away easy.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see, mate. It's going to be a few months, I think, before we see that. But obviously, all the French venues have all been affected. All those businesses, like Gigantica and Dream Lakes and all that, they've all been massively affected, haven't they? You can't travel. Everybody's cancelling their holidays or moving, and the rest of it.
It's all that uncertainty, isn't it? And I guess Gigantica was only open for a few months of last year, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I mean, the fishing's been unbelievable. I mean, that big common came out, didn't it, at £93. It really has lived up to its name now. It is the Valley of the Giants, isn't it?
We will get onto that later in the show, actually, because I want to talk about that as well. Getting onto your own fishing, I mean, you've got quite a few tickets at the moment, but you've been fishing Frimley and Devon Waters as well. I mean, we've seen some pictures of you and Francesco.
I've always got a few tickets, Simon.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, can I borrow some of those?
I try and prepare for the future. Because some of these lakes you get in and you can't. If you drop out, you never get back in again. And I've had them for a long time, but don't necessarily fish them. You can't have all your lakes in the Colne Valley in case SBC wipes through it or something.
Actually, Pete Regan.
Say that again, mate.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Regan said that to me, actually. I didn't. I never thought about that, but he said you don't want to have tickets all in the same area, just in case the worst happens, and then you don't just lose one lake potentially. You might lose a whole area of you need to spread your tickets around a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, all the lakes I've fished up till last year were all at a traditional close season. So it's like you miss out on the whole spring. So I contacted Nigel Sharp a good few years ago about joining the Frimley Syndicate because I'd fished it back in the old RMC days and the fish was stunning and they've all grown a lot, So I got in there 2019, I think. So I fished there a little bit in spring and through the autumn. I was quite lucky. I caught a few. I didn't do too many nights, 2 or 3 nights, I suppose. But in the October, I caught the fish they called a Charlie's Mate. One October night when I was on my own.
Do you remember that? We were on the phone.
Yeah.
You text me and you said, because every time you say, I think there's I can feel something's happening here. And then I texted you back and I was like, Charlie's Mate. And it was like, I'd love to have put that text message up on the screen, actually. And then literally an hour later, it's like, I've got Charlie's Mate. Tell us about that catch.
Yeah, it was a strange one, that, because I got to the lake and there was an area called Deep Point where there's a bar that runs sort of away from you down the lake. And there was a lot of fizzing, there was a lot of activity, carp activity around there. And I'd taken my gear around there. But the previous couple of trips I'd done, I'd walked past a swim on, they call it the Noddies Bank, which is like the short cast to that bar. It's only sort of 100 yards away from me looking across to it. Just a little swim near the island that I'd never seen anybody fish. And I'd walked past it a few times thinking, there's something about that swim I like, but never felt the urge to go in there. But on that trip, there was fishing in front of us. I hadn't set up or anything, but I just kept looking over to that swim and there was nothing showing over there. There was no signs of carp at all. But it was just that draw, that, do you know what? What's the worst can happen? I'll blank. And so I went around and set up, got my rods out, and then I just had that feeling. You get that feeling sometimes where something special is going to happen. And I stayed up. It was about 11:30, 12 o'clock. And I just sat on a chair by my rods, and rods were right by me. And it was no surprise. It was one of them October nights. Actually, I think there was a load of big fish caught that in that week period. I think there was loads of big commons caught because we keep telling Thomas at work that the full moon's about commons, but he won't have any of it. So he's gathering evidence.
Was that on the full moon as well?
It was, yeah. Yeah. Well, it was the biggest fish in the lake, £51. So it was a special one. PB as well.
Yeah. Well, you had a flurry of bigger fish as well, haven't you? Because your PB for a long time was a snake pit common, wasn't it? And then all of a sudden,
I broke it with that Save fish, the black mirror, and then then the Charlie's mate, and then I broke it again this summer. But at the start of the last lockdown, me and Francesca went. Francesca's my daughter, my 8-year-old daughter. She would come with me, and we'd just do like a day and a night at Frimley for the spring. And we had some really good trips, caught some nice fish up to 44 pounds. She loves being outside. The kids, I mean, even Toby, when he's take him, they're obsessed with making tea with the stove. So it's like, that's what it was all about, can I light the stove? It's not about fire and the responsibility of making a cup of tea.
Yeah, and then you turn round and then I'd start burning sticks and leaves and all that.
Yeah, that's it.
Toby preferred that part of it to the actual fishing, didn't he?
Well, to be fair to him, he quite liked going fishing when he was younger, but it was when he sort of discovered girls and it all went a bit pear-shaped. Hopefully he'll get his tackle out this year.
I've said, and I'll say it live again, I am going out this year, so it's been said and done now.
Yeah, cool.
But he did get out. He did get out fishing a little. We went fishing together in the end. But getting back to Frimley, I mean, so Frimley Free as well, Damo. I mean, that's quite. That's quite a smallish, intimate lake. It's not tiny, is it? But
it's not tiny. No, I mean the longest cast on is about 80 yards. Yeah. So you can fish with fluorocarbon, you fish with slack lines, but it's like an old boys club over there. And I'm probably one of the youngest members, and I'm not that young. A lot of them are old boys. It's just a nice feel over there, do you know what I mean? And it's one of them lakes where you don't want to go too much because you don't want to catch them too quick because you want to enjoy it, savour it, savour the taste of it. But the fish in there there's some of the best looking carp I've ever seen. There's a fully scoured in there that I've got a picture of Terry Hearn's dad, Barry, with. And it's just like, just off the scale. It's just beautiful. And I mean, I did catch a fish called Jerry's fish, which was a 40 pound, just over 40 pound, fully scaled. That was a stunning looking carp. But the commons they're the best looking commons in the country, mate, bar none. And the fishery is a real credit to Nigel and Mark who run it, or Mark owns it. And there's loads of lakes there they've got, and it really is something really special. So I love going up there. So when we come out of lockdown, hopefully in the spring, that's where I'll be heading, mate, for another bit of that. But and then in the summer, I've been in the autumn, I've been fishing sort of an Essex lake. No publicity, no anything. It's just locked down, quiet. But I've had a ticket there for about 12 years. Haven't fished it for 10, I suppose. And then I just thought, do you know what, with the art of predation and all that sort of thing, something's going to happen, and I'll miss it. And there's a lot of big fish, a lot of big fish in there. But I really enjoyed it. It's boat fishing. You can go out in a boat and bait up. There's a lot of challenges at deep water, but the fish in there are. Well, I said the Frimley fish were good. I mean, the fish in this lake are off the scale as well. And I had a couple of very good trips that sort of culminated in catching a lot of big fish.
Yeah, you said as well. Autumn time, it seemed to sort of come together for you, didn't it?
It did, yeah. A bit of planning. I mean, I was fishing a swim that I'd fished a lot in the 2 years when I first started fishing there, and I ended up being quite successful in that swim. But it's a very quiet lake with a lot of big fish in it. You can only catch what's in the lake, can't you? But I had a couple of trips where I caught, where I just did one night and a day, and I caught a lot. I think I had 13 or 15 takes in 24 hours the first trip, and then 10, I think, the next trip. But 3 of the fish were the scaliest, most beautiful fish in the lake, and another PB by an ounce. But it was epic fishing, Simon. Epic fishing.
But quite different to Frimley as well. You said that we had that change of weather, didn't we? And we had that low pressure in.
We had a massive low pressure coming in September, where we had some winds of like 50 miles an hour. And the day before, I'd gone to the beach. What my plan was to go down the lake during the night. So basically, I didn't miss any time with the children, and I just made the most of my time on the lake, because in previous trips I've been doing, say, like a Wednesday night, getting the rods out during Wednesday, but then catching the fish on Thursday morning. So I was missing that period in the morning. So I thought, if I go down late at night on a Tuesday, I'm set up for Wednesday, get the rods out first light, and then I make the most of the day, and then the following morning. So I get 2 bites of that cherry, if you like.
So you ascertained on previous sessions that 8 o'clock in the morning period was the time
between
to be
8 and about 11.
Yeah.
After that, it sort of just went dead. So I just wanted to get
2 bites of the cherry.
Periods.
Yeah,
definitely. So we'd gone to the beach, and it was like the worst day you could have gone to the beach ever. But we hired a beach hut, and it was like 50 mile an hour southwesterly winds blowing into the coast. And it was like being in a sandblast machine. But me and Wendy sat in the hut, and the kids, they don't care, do they? They were just running around on the beach, getting blown away and running in the surf and stuff. But when you have, I got in my head I was going that night, and then it was just, I was sat on the beach and the wind was getting stronger and stronger, and I just thought, I just had that feeling in the pit of your stomach that you need to be down the lake, and like something epic is going to happen, because the weather was so different to what it had been. And I'd baited up on the Monday, so I'd expected, this was the Tuesday, so I was thinking, the planets are aligning, they're definitely going to be on this wind. But the wind was more of a left to right rather than in your face, so you've got to be tricky fishing in the swim. But as the day wore on, it was just like, someone else is going to get down there, I've got to get down there, so it's like, by the afternoon of wind, I'm going, as soon as we get home, I'm going, and getting down there. So just to secure the spot. But I didn't actually get down there till, I don't know, midnight or something.
You got stuck Tobe, you jump in there, Tobe.
You got stuck in traffic, didn't
you? Yeah, Wendy's direction was like 100 yards from home. So we were stuck in the A12 for ages. Just infuriating, do you know what I mean? It's like, go on, eat dinner, just go in, get my gear together. I got to work. Until I got to work, it was dark. Got back, went into work to pick up another set of rods that I hadn't used I've never used them, but I thought I might need some 5-ounce leads to get out there because of the crosswind and stuff. So I got down the lake, set everything up, and when it was absolutely blowing a hooligan, 40 mile an hour crosswinds. But you're on adrenaline, aren't you? So sort of 1 o'clock in the morning, I managed to get to sleep. I'd wrapped everything up. It was all just ready to go in the morning. So as soon as it gets light enough, you're allowed to go out in a boat. Managed to get my floats out to mark the left and right hand side of the area I was fishing. Puts the bait out with the boat. I mean, it was like going out in the sea. The boat was, but got it out there, got back, and then probably from about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, the action started, and it just continued. It was just like from the morning period, it went dead in the afternoon. And then because I've caught so many, I just thought there's a proper opportunity here. So through the night, tied up a load of rigs, set up another rod. So I ended up having 4 rods set up. So I could just cast the rod back out as soon as I caught one. And in the morning, from sort of 8:15, I think it was, I had the first bite that morning, 27. Got that in, did some self-takes, or got it in, cast the 4th rod back out, I had free fishing, did the self-takes, got the other rod set up, and then basically every rod went off, and my confidence was such that I wouldn't normally have done this. So I set up 2 nets, because you look like a bit of a dick if you got on a fishing hard lake with 2 nets set up. But I was so confident I was going to catch them. I had them set up so that I could leave the nets in the water, and they were strapped down because of the wind. And then if I caught anything, I could just leave it in the net, and it was strapped down, unhook it, and just get on with my business and get the rods back out. So I ended up having 5 fish in 2 nets, 2 doubles, a 20, a 30, I think, and a 50. And it was well, I got to the point I don't cast out again anymore. Got rid of a couple of them, and then just carried on. It was epic, mate. It was like,
well, that's what you're very, very good at. It's manipulating a situation. So seeing when a situation or a hit is on the cards and being set up and prepared for that. I think if people to watch you fishing, that's what they would take away from. That's what people would learn from you.
I mean, I've seen Julian write about it before. Being drummed into him about recasting. That's a layer pit thing, from back when we was kids. That was get your rod back out. Roger Smith, wrote about it loads of times over Saturday. Get your rod back out, and that really does make a difference. You know, I've caught fish from Saturday where I would not have caught them if I hadn't had the foresight to have a rig set up, ready to go on dark, get the rod back out there, and it's rattled off.
Were you tramming your rods up as well when you were catching those fish? Were they pretty tight?
Yeah, they weren't. I was fishing with boilies, and I wasn't fishing them really tight. It was over quite a bit of an area, probably 3 rod lengths wide, but all at the same range, and then baited up, going across the area, but then back out into the lake. I was fishing near some boats which were moored up out in the centre of the lake, some sailing boats, and the carp like being there. You know, they like being around the boat, so you sort of drawing them off of that area across to where I was fishing, and then picking them off. But yeah, you've got to be prepared, mate. And, you know, when there's an opportunity, that's the difference between catching 1 and 5, isn't it? No. Or 3 and 10. And when the stakes are that big, you know, the fish are that big, you've got to make the most of it.
Absolutely. You had some plans for this year as well. You still got these plans to go across into Europe and try and catch a bigger carp than the PB. What's your PB? The Scar? Is it the Scar? Isn't it?
Yeah, 93.8 years. Yeah.
Wow, you've got some.
I mean, there's quite a few carp that are bigger than that now that you can go and fish for. But I planned to do a bit of fishing in Europe last year. Go and fish for that black mirror that Darryl caught, and you know, a few trips to Gigantica and another lake in. I can't remember the name of the lake that I'm going with a friend, but that's got a really big common in it. Sort of that'd be a PB, that one, if I call that. So we're still on for that in October. We'll have to see what the restrictions like for travel into Europe through the summer. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the October trip. To be honest, that's a massive common. And there's some good backup fish as well. So yeah, the fire still burns for them. So
yeah, I'm sure. If there's a big fish anywhere, you're after it, aren't you?
Well, yeah, maybe. I'd like to catch some of them big ones in Gigantica. I mean, they're huge, but I have been distracted with English fishing, and I've been really enjoying English fishing at the moment. So
I mean, were you surprised at that Gigantica? Was £96? I mean, that it's kind of came out of nowhere, hasn't it? It was a £60, wasn't it? Not that long ago, and it's just put on so much weight.
Yeah.
If you were going to go to Gigantica to try and catch something like that, would you? How would you kind of time a session to try? I mean, it's so difficult with a stock of fish like that to try and single out that one.
That fish gets caught from the same area, so you've got to get in one of them areas where it gets caught from. There's a video on my Instagram of that fish in the snag bush, and
we saw it,
one of the swims, and that fish lived in one particular area. So you could target; it's targetable.
Is that what you would do on there then? Because that got caught at the beach, didn't it? Before, would you kind of just think around that sort of area again?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, they've taken that bush out now, so it's not frequent in that area. But it's the carp are creatures of habit, aren't they? They like their things. But that carp, I said to Dan when that was a 60-pounder, that would be the biggest common in the world, that fish, and that's going to be a 100-pounder, that fish. Hopefully it will survive. I mean, they're very well looked after in there. They don't get stressed out. They're not getting caught all the time. That last capture was 93, I think. Size, wasn't it? But the backup fish, you know, there's 4 80-pounders in there or something, loads of 70s. That is a truly Giantsville, isn't it?
It's Giantsville. It is.
It's massive. The potential of that lake is huge. You know, Dan's restocking policy of using, you know, spawn out the lake and taking out a few fish, putting a few more in. You know, that's going to be one of the best lakes, if not the best lake in France.
And this other common, so is this bigger than the Gigantica one?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been £100 in one capture. I think it's the world. If it's still the world record, it was the world record. Because that saucy fish I caught, that went over to £100 and 8 ounces. Yeah. And I think this common beat that. So I think it holds the world record at the moment.
So just to wrap this up, one takeaway to take, you know, from the last 12 months, is there anything that kind of, you know, you can take away from this whole experience with the pandemic? And
I think the thing for me is that working is changed, and it's going to be changed forever. You know, you don't need to go into work all the time now. So yeah, having more of an open mind about people working from home, I think it works. But you still need the interaction with people in the office, because you can feel like a sole trader, if you like, when you're marooned at home on your little island. No, I think, and you've just got to enjoy life, and you make the most of it. I mean, I'll be able to do a bit more fishing because we can work from the bank, can't we? You know, it's
yes, we can.
You know, it's all good. You know, so yeah, I hope I'm going to get to do a bit more fishing, and I just hope life comes back to a bit more normal. To be able to go on holiday and that sort of thing. Don't take things for granted, really, isn't it?
Mixing with people and not being so self-conscious around people as well. That's going to be weird when we're back to that, but hopefully soon anyway. But thanks very much for coming on the show. It's always good listening to you. We could do another 3-hour podcast easily, couldn't we?
Yeah, maybe another time.
We will do. All right, Damian, thanks very much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Cheers.
Thanks. Right, our next guest on the show previously appeared on episode 13 of the podcast. Now, some of you guys may remember if you watched or listened to it. It was quite emotional. Well, he's back on the show now. Iain Macmillan, welcome to the podcast again. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Slick. And a nice bit of product on the hair there. I see you've made an effort this time, unlike in March.
I need it, mate. It's been about 3 months since we last had a haircut. So
Toby's giggly laugh.
Ian, do you know what we refer to him as? He looks like that mid-level drug dealer, doesn't he? You see on the street corner.
He basically looks like a drug dealer that doesn't make any money because he sniffs it all himself.
Yeah, that's exactly.
You're a failed drug dealer, Pip. Failed.
We could try and look like a failed drug dealer, though, can't we? Or look like a proper drug dealer, whatever. Anyway, good to have you on the show, mate. How are you? Last time you were on, it was, as we just said, it was a little bit, well, you just received some news, hadn't you? And it kind of turned everything on its head a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it seems so long ago that, and it's only 10 months, 9 months, whatever it was, when I came down to Korda. Yeah, we'd had a good scan in the November of, it'd be 2019, maybe, was it? Yeah, anyway. So then I've gone through winter, gone to the Northern Angling Show, had another scan. We were scheduled to obviously do the podcast on whatever date it was in early March. I had the results the day before that it wasn't great news. We'd got some growth of a new tumour on the left side, which would be the new cancer that they found during the surgery. And it was tough to take because I'd just done 6 months straight chemo every other week for 9-10 hours for a full day, and then you have to come home with a pump on, very restrictive and very invasive. And so for the scan to be good in November, and then 3 months later in March, 4 months later, something's gone from nothing to 1.5 centimetres. I was very concerned. I was really concerned. But weirdly, coming to Korda really helped just take my mind off it. I'm so glad that me and Kath came. I really am, because it did take my mind off it and enabled me to just get everything out, speak, and just talk openly with you. Which was great. It was really good for me, and Kath enjoyed coming. And so we've gone through the rest of the year. I ended up in hospital with colitis in lockdown. You can imagine being taken into hospital during that period. I was absolutely shitting myself. The one place I didn't want to be was in a hospital. So we got over that. They obviously changed the chemotherapy in March, because if it stopped working, they're not going to keep putting you through it, as in that particular type. So they changed it to the one that really fucks up my hands, really, my face and my feet with the cold weather. And then I was scanned in August. That was good. So the tumour that they found had gone. I was then scanned in December of last year, so 2020. And we got the results just before Christmas, and nothing showing. Even the one little lymph node that was showing in August, that's gone. So I'm totally I'm not cancer free. It's very, very emotionally hard to take, because I could come to Essex or to London now and to go to hospital, have a CT scan, and there'd be nothing there. So they'd say, you haven't got cancer. But me and Kath work off facts, that what the surgeon found, and he saw it and touched it inside my body during surgery, and he said, it's incurable, it'll never be cured. So it's an incurable terminal prognosis, whichever way you look at it. So the best that we can hope for is scans like this, where everything is just stable and I wouldn't say dormant, but behaving itself. You know.
That's amazing that that they could do a scan, and you said, and they wouldn't be able to detect it. It's only because they previously knew it. Do you feel any difference in yourself, in your body, from how you were feeling when we saw you in March to how you're feeling now? Then,
I've been up and down with my weight, depending, because the chemo they give me now, I have to go into the ward. I'm going tomorrow, so I go in for 3 hours rather than 9. But then I come home. I mean, that's good. Because I'm not in the hospital for a full day, and then I come home and have to take chemo tablets for 2 weeks. Well, the problem when you take chemotherapy tablets, they're going through your stomach and through your bowels, so it really affects your digestion, and I get a lot of nausea after the treatment. I can periodically get quite a lot of diarrhea because it's toxic poison going through your system. Whereas before, the chemo was all going through my veins, so it wasn't going anywhere near my digestive system. So I didn't suffer with the diarrhea and the nausea, but the fatigue side is really bad now. I just think there's one that the chemo I'm on now just must be particularly nasty for really draining you. So what I do, I just don't make any plans for 3 or 4 days after tomorrow, after my treatment, and I'll just lie on the settee or just do very little. But it's hard. It's still hard. I struggle to take good news. I really do. I even think I handle bad news. I think I get my head around it a bit easier than good, because I still get people now messaging me, and it's lovely that they take the time. I knew you'd beat it. I knew you'd get over it. I knew you'd fight it and beat it. And well, I am fighting with every fucking bone in my body. But you know, we're working on what the experts have said. We'll never beat it. That's what they've said. It will kill you because of what they've seen. It's widespread all through my stomach and my bowel. Now, you know, I'm quite happy. Well, I'm not quite happy. It's really tough to not let your brain get carried away and think about remission and will they take me off chemotherapy, because something is working again now, whether it's the chemo or the cannabis. I think it's the chemo. But either way, I'm not changing anything, to the point where my oncologist is almost she's hinted a couple of times now about giving me quite a couple of months off chemo. And I'm like, fuck that, I want to stay on it. Don't rock the boat, until we get bad news, we carry on as we are. And so it is hard. It's mentally very hard. I've become very, very angry through COVID, just because of all the fucking idiots that won't do as they're told. I'm sorry, choice language, but it just really pisses me off, because what these people that, you've got a right to your opinion or freedom of speech, but all this shit that I see on social media, I mean, I just delete people now. If I see them conspiring about 5G or they're going to put a microchip in you with for your vaccine, I just delete it, because my brain, I don't want to read negative shit like that, because in my world, I'm petrified of COVID, because if I catch it, it'll kill me. If my mum catches it, it'll kill her, because she's elderly. So I'm being very cautious, and the vaccine for me is like only this morning, because my mum is a widow. She's in our bubble, mine and Kathy's bubble, so we can see her all the time. Go in, she can come up here. I've been up today. She's had a vaccine. They came to her house and gave her a first vaccine. I was so emotional. It was just amazing. It's like this. What I've seen on the TV is there in my mum's house, going into her arm, and so I'm happy about that.
What about you with the vaccine? I mean, obviously you're on the vulnerable list as well. Is any news on that?
I spoke to my surgery last week, and they just got them in, so they've got to roll out the people that are before me. I think I'm on the fourth tier, so I'm the fourth. I think 75 and over, and clinically vulnerable. So I'm expecting mine within the next couple of weeks, I guess. But we're very careful. I'm very good at being meticulous and organised and looking at the situation. If people get too close to me now, I just stop them. I don't have it. I just stop them. I tell them.
What about fishing at this time of the year with the cold weather and stuff like that? How does that affect?
Oh man, well I've been using these lodges. I've been to Old Mill up in Yorkshire. I've been down into Devon at John's Land, and it's great. But then and then Elder Lakes froze up here before Christmas. I had chemo between Christmas and New Year, so until yesterday I hadn't been for 3 weeks. So I went to JCB Lake yesterday, for the day, but I had to come home after 4 hours because Kathy bought me, we must have spent 200 quid on these expensive gloves. We've got different pairs, but I was still cold. A lot of money on socks, and it's the wind chill. So I did 4 hours with my mate Egg. We had a piss about, which is what it's all about, isn't it? We're only fishing for doubles, so we're not getting there to catch a 40-pounder, but we had a good giggle. I got me fix, but I had to come home. Because I was getting uncomfortable because I was sitting down. And what it's proven is if I'm still on this chemo next winter, there's no way, unless I fish out my van, which I've got a night eater in now, or in a lodge, there's no way I can sit outside because it doesn't matter. I've got some really expensive gloves and the wind just cuts through them. And it's the temperature difference with my hands. So, and like yesterday, they were blue, all my veins were popped because my hands were blue, they were that cold, and I got gloves on, good gloves. So I'm just going to play it by ear with the weather. Like I say, I've got chemo tomorrow, so I'll be out the game for a few days. And if the weather's good and there's no wind, I'll go next week. We can only go for the day anyway, so it's not the high list of my priorities at the minute.
Right, okay. But those lodges are ideal, mate, aren't they? And then, sorry, what's the name of the lake again that you were fishing there? I should know that. You sent me a number of pictures over the last.
John's Land. It's a place in Devon. It's only a small place, but the lodge is just. It's like it's twice the size, 3 times the size of my house. And it's amazing. It's got a hot tub and underfloor heating and aircon.
That sounds like my kind of fishing.
You'd like that, Tobe. Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely. I've got this vision of Toby naked, with little Toby out in the hot tub at the minute.
Well, you say the right things, mate. We can make it happen.
Bathing him in milk, in warm milk. I think I've been sick in my mouth.
Oh no.
doesn't bear thinking about, mate, does it?
But yeah, I mean, for me, they're fantastic. But obviously, with the new lockdown, or with the lockdown that isn't a lockdown that nobody listens to anyway, all the lodge, you can't have these dwellings open. So even like I went to Mill Lodge Retreat just before Christmas in Essex. So we had to film a DNA winter series. I won't give the game away in case any of you. But that was because you got a lodge, But so it's easily doable. There's so many of these lodges popping up all over the place outside.
You should try Cotswold Water Park as well. You've been to Wild Boar?
No, we spoke about this. Cherry Lakes and all that.
Sorry, Wild Boar. Is it Wild Boar? Yeah. Cherry Lakes. Wildmoor, yeah.
There's loads of choice out there. And the thing is John's Land place down in Devon, Neil's place. He's only just opened it, and he's getting so many bookings now, and it's not cheap. But people want that. They want to take the family. They want to take the kids. They want the lake to themselves. So there's a massive market for these lodges. But I'm trying to keep them all a bit low key, so next winter I can actually get back in them rather than have to fish in a bivvy. But so yeah, I've not done much fishing since before Christmas. But like I say, we've had quite bad weather up here in Stoke. A lot of the lakes have only just thawed out, and like even yesterday, JCB Lake had flooded a couple of days before. The river runs right next to it, and you can see the mullock so 2 days the water's dropped by 4.5 foot. Well, you imagine how much freezing cold water's gone into that lake.
How deep
is
that lake?
It's about 6 foot. It's just a complete man-made bowl. Nothing lives in there. There's so many fish in there that everything that survives just gets eaten by fish. So it's a good winter water normally, but like yesterday, I came away because of my hands, and Egg stayed, and he didn't have a bite. And it's normally prolific. You can normally catch a few in the winter, but the water temperatures are it's freezing, freezing cold.
You caught a 40-pounder last year, didn't you, from Farriers Lake as well?
Yes, yeah. Well, again, I flirted around last year. I think me fishing, I've loved it. I love it more now than ever. And I think, do you know what it is? I think because I think I've dodged a bullet again with this latest scan that's good, I almost try to cram so much into a 4-month period, because I think if the next scan's bad, it might knock me or might throw me off the rails. So I just live for fishing now. Obviously, my family come first, but my fishing just keeps me motivated, and to the point where, like, I'm out with Century next week filming some new rods, and it's me that's pushing them. It's me that's saying to Alan, let's go out, because I want something to do. I'm fucking bored shitless at home because I'm not doing much fishing, and I can't go around beaches. I can't go around with mates to have a brew because you can't socialise. So I'm sort of buzzing again just to stay busy. once mid to end of February comes, I'm buzzing for the spring because the nights they're drawing out. You're all getting a bit more positive, and we all knew this would happen. That if there's another wave, that we could well be locked down in the worst time of year. And I think mental health is going to spiral out of control now. I think there's lots of people now having wobbles because it's the worst month of the year anyway. January, it's very depressing, and you can't go and see anybody. You know, me and Kathy are the same.
But we're end of January now, mate. I mean, we're speeding through this, aren't we, as well? So I mean, it's a difficult time of the year generally, anyway. But at least we're coming out the back end of it now, anyway, aren't we? So.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
You mentioned Century and stuff. You consultancies and stuff at the moment. Did you have some problems with losing a consultancy recently?
Yeah, not problems as such. I left PB Products only last week, and it's only because I think the business has suffered. John emailed me. He cut me money last year, and I stuck with it on the basis that he's a good guy and there's some good products. On the basis that my money would go back up now. Well, and then I had an email the other day, last week, that he was cutting the rest of it. So I'm quite a lot of money down every now. But I'm not. I could do without worrying about financial side of it with the health thing as well. But I've not given it too much thought yet. As in, what will I do? How will I find the rest? How will I make that money up? I don't move around too much. That's the thing. And John's saying that he's had troubles with stock and COVID, and so again, it's his business, and if he's struggling, he's got to make cutbacks. So I accept that, but I could have done without it at this period where I'm buoyant. I'm happy about things. Everything's, the cancer seems to be okay at the minute. So I could just do without not worrying about money. So but something will come up. It's.
How have you normally found consultancies? Do they just approach you, or do you actively go out looking for those?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of companies, everybody wants to be involved with the bigger companies. I get that. But companies like Korda, they don't really need consultants. They're such a good brand. And you've got people like Neil and Ali and Tom and Dama, and you're all very good anglers, or even all the reps. Everybody just loves carp fishing there. So Korda don't need to pay people like me because they don't need me. I totally understand that, and I don't know. I don't know what's out there. I'll put the feelers out. But the problem is if you go to a bigger company, from my point of view, that maybe do rods as well as other bits. So you say you went to a Fox or a Nash or something like that, they do everything. So that means then you have to give up the deals you have, because I couldn't stay at Century and go to Fox because there's a conflict of interest on the rod. So and obviously Century paying me. So it's not just replacing one with the other. There's a deficit there for money. So it's not just leaving one company to go to another. You've got to replace the money that I would lose from Century as well. So, but I don't like going cap in hand to companies. I've never really done it. I've always been approached by companies, I guess. But something will turn up. But and a lot of the issue is these days is you've got so many people that want to be in the industry that they do it for nothing. They do it for a bit of terminal tackle or 50 kilos of bait a year because they're sponsored. They like that. They like to say that they're a sponsored angler. But for the people like me that earn their living from it, all it does is undermine it. And it was Ian Russell. When I used to work for Tracker years ago, 15 years ago, I would do anything for anybody for nothing. So I'd do magazine features for nothing. Obviously, there was no filming, but really back then. So it was all magazine features. But because I was earning very good money as a full-time rep for Tracker. So I didn't need any more money. So I'd just do it. You're increasing your profile. You're supporting. I was with Korda at the time, and Mainline. So you're supporting the brands that are supporting you. But these days, Ian used to say to me, "Fucking stop doing it," because Ian was earning his money then. There wasn't hardly anybody at the time earning full-time money at fishing. Chemo was one of them, and he wouldn't have a go at me. He'd just say, "Look, this is my living." It snowballed and snowballed over the years, and you get a lot of people now will do it for nothing, which is fine. The companies aren't going to complain, but for people like me that earn a full-time wage from it, it does chip away at it, And so, but I haven't really given it too much serious thought yet. I've rung a couple of people. Not many people know the word. Well, certainly now the word.
Yeah, they will now.
After this goes live, it'll be out. So I'm available for bar mitzvahs, weddings, funerals, preferably not my own. I'm good at cleaning. This feels like a fucking Tinder advert.
Brilliant at
Sense of humour,
brilliant at
will
cleaning,
travel.
We need to sort you a little jingle or something, don't we?
We will.
For job offers, swipe right.
That's it.
Hey, just changing the subject. At the end of the last podcast, we were talking about Pascals Lake in France, and at the time, October when you went, that seemed like quite a long way off, and you did get that trip in the end, didn't you? And caught a few fish.
It was the only French trip I did last year. I lost quite a few. Pascal lost Pascals in the spring, but so we went, and God, it was surreal when we got there, because we drove through you always leave early. So me and Beachy got there. We'd done a deal with Clive and Bullet that because we wanted to, like, I've been thinking of hardly anything else for months, planning this little plan of attack with the washing line and the swims we wanted, because we wanted to fish the same swim for 2 weeks. So me and Beachy, we got there. Me and Beachy tossed. I won the toss. There was no bad swim because we were either in we were what we wanted. We got the 2 swims we wanted. I didn't care, so I won the toss. And then me and Beachy were walking around the lake, like we wanted to go home. We were so tired, and the reality was that we were there, and we got 2 weeks ahead of us. And so I won the toss, and I wanted to go in my favourite swim, which is called the Gate. But because I've been working out this washing line method and if it would work at range, I went into 60s, because I thought if Dave goes in 60s, and he did want to go in 60s, I still would have borrowed him all my little bits I've made and all my little things and ideas so he could fish it. And then I thought, well, if he does that and he fucking has it off, I'm going to be gutted. And even Dave said, you've got to go in that swim because you've thought about this for so long, you've got to see if it works. So we had a few teething problems with the clips. I'm so glad I had that other C clip, them Fox C clips that I told you about, what they use at Rainbow for going round corners. And all I did with that was I reduced the angle. So I had my line coming like that and then going into the line clip, or else it wouldn't have held because it was under so much tension because of the distance. I mean, one of them was probably 140 yards away. And I managed to keep it up. We had a couple of debacles early on with birds flying in the line. Only after a couple of hours, I got a massive drop back. I think I was in Beachy's swim, and I think, fucking hell, it's working already, And I went round, and there was a load of rings, and there was 3 ducks sitting on the surface by the line. So, of course, because the venue's so weedy, because I'm using big, heavy leads, you can't even get the leads back in the weeds. So you have to go out the boat to get the rig back, then reset it, then pass the line to Beachy, who puts it in the clips, and then I boat back. So we had a few teething problems, and it was probably a couple of days before we alleviated every problem, just getting the angles right of the line clip. But did it work? I caught fish on every rod. I don't think it made the session better. I had 10 bites in 2 weeks, which is good for that. I lost 2 fish, but what it did is I never seen fish fizzing literally 15 yards in front of the swim, because normally there's lines there cutting that off. So I don't think it made any difference to what I caught. It didn't do me any harm, but it certainly didn't revolutionise the session where I had 20 bites.
Would you do it again? Is it worth the hassle?
Not, no. Well, I don't. Say again.
Is it worth the hassle?
It wasn't a hassle in the end. It was probably more hassle for Beachy, because I would boat out, lower the rig, and my spots were only probably 5 or 6 yards from the bank. So I could, but obviously I was in a boat, so it was a real pain in the arse then to drop the rig, then go to the clips, and then I was fucking all over the place. So I would drop the rig, go into Beachy, he'd get the line, put it in the 2 clips, and then I'm off. And it did work like clockwork in the end. There's only 2 swims you could do it on Pascals, and I don't think it caught me any more fish, but I tried it and I satisfied my own curiosity, I guess. But I would do it again, Si. I'd certainly do it again.
Yeah, it's got its place, hasn't it?
Well, now I'm obsessed with doing it in the UK. So, but again, now I know I can achieve it at a big distance. There's scope on waters. I mean, I've just got on to Baston, Danny's little on the Reedy Lake. I'm on the Baston Syndicate. I've not fished it yet, but like there, you couldn't do it anywhere on there because it's kind of not that sort. You could possibly do it on one of the swims, but I think it's more suitable to smaller waters where you can you can walk round, and you're very stealthy, and you got all your line up, and the fish are very more.
Those Ashmead sort of lakes, aren't they? You know, Ashmead, where they're very small and indifferent. Perfect, wouldn't it? Somewhere
Absolutely perfect. Places like that, it would be perfect.
But you did find another edge while you were there, though, didn't you?
Edge, yes. Well, I now look back, I'm pissed off really, because there was fish fizzing on me, and I had a couple of bites, and I got them all on matching, sort of match the hatch to the S7 that I was using. I've never used a fluoro in Pascals ever. You kind of think they're too big, they're too clever, they ain't going to put up with that. So I had a lot of fish that were held up close in between me and Dave. So I was only fishing me right rod probably 15 yards out, and they were just coming on me. I'd get a bite. Well, I'd get a bite after a couple of days. It isn't that sort of water where they just. But then I waited about 3 days to get another bite, and then it fell off. And I'm thinking, are they a bit spooky of the spot? But so I put fluoro on. Fucking hell, it went within about 3 or 4 hours. And then to the point where I'm then thinking, oh my God. So then some of the rods weren't going as often as the others. And one rod had been out for 3 days on an S7 wafter. So I brought it in, put a fluoro on, and it went the next day. Every single rod ended up with fluoros on, wafters. And I'm just thinking now, could I have caught more before? I've always done well, and I've always been happy. But it's my mind. It's only that particular lake. It's like farriers. I had that 40 pound. I've had a few fish from farriers. I didn't fish it much, but I don't think about farriers constantly. I think because Pascals is a holiday venue for us, and it means a lot when I go there, because it's my fishing. There's no cameras. There's no nothing. It's just my fishing. So I think about it. Farriers I'm almost blasé with English fishing because I can get there in a couple of hours. You almost get I get a bit blasé with it. Maybe we've got another trip booked for this spring if it happens. Early May, another good week, and the weed is a lot lower then. So I'm already thinking. Sorry.
Would you dare just fish with singles then and not put any bait out? Just use
Well, that's
films?
what I was just about to say. I mean, there's a few lads I know that do well in the spring. The only time of year you can get away with chucking singles at fizzers or at showers is in the spring because the weed's a lot lower. You do it in the summer or autumn, you're going to land in 11-foot weed. You won't even get the rig back. So that might be an issue for me, where I might just, I might fish chods. I don't know. I've done the washing line thing. I've done quite a few things on there that have worked. So I'm almost looking for something else to keep me a bit occupied, because it was a long session, 2 weeks. I was glad to come home. Beachy had 2 bites. He only had 1 bite a week. So his head dropped a bit on the first week, which in turn dragged me down a bit because we all need G'ing up, but he didn't do nothing wrong. If I'd have fished that swim, I'd have fished it the same as Dave did. But unfortunately, the fish don't always go there. I was so close to picking that swim side because I knew Dave wanted to fish 60s. And because he's such a good friend, I thought, well, I'll let him do that. But then that little kind of carp fishing selfish streak comes in that I'd won the toss. And I think, well, if he goes in there and has some big uns, and I don't, then I'm going to be pissed off because I could have done that because I won the toss. So, but then the Sunday I had a 69 pounder, and that was on the washing line. But then it didn't kick off like I thought it would. But it did enable fish to fizz in areas I've never seen them fizzing in before because there was no lines. I've got my little 4th rod down the corner on fluorocarbon, literally in the edge. So there's one from my aspect. I looked at the swim. I had 1 rod out because 2 of them, my left and my middle. The furthest 4th rod was in the corner on its own on a little snide bank stick. Me left and middle were out the water, and it was me right 5th. So I got 1 line in the water 15 yards out, and it made a difference where I saw fish, but I don't think it made a difference where I caught them, where I got me spots.
Always learning though, mate, aren't you? Especially on those sort of lakes.
Yeah, always learning. But the thing is, I was reluctant to change me. Some people might watch this and go, well, why didn't you just cast it where they were fizzing? The very point of doing 2 weeks in one swim was to stick to the same spots, exactly the same spot size. My spots didn't change for 2 weeks. I might have moved it slightly 5 yards this way or 2 yards that way to a slightly better spot that looked better on the echo. But that was the whole purpose of booking a 2 week trip. to fish the same swim, the same spots, keep the bait going in, build it. And, you know, but I've had equally as good of results. I've had better results in just a week. Randomly, you know, so
well, it's a good experiment, isn't it? And we don't often have the time, do we, to be able to leave rigs in the water for days on end, and some people just don't like doing that anyway. But when you do get the chance to do that, you know, you can reap the rewards, can't you? And it's good for that.
I was getting paranoid at one stage. Like I say, the rod that I reeled in, I was paranoid that, because them German rigs, I can count on two hands over the last few years since I've used that German, the amount of fish I've lost. Just don't lose them on them. It's a very cumbersome rig. It's quite bulky, and I think that's what tricks them up. I think they find it difficult to deal with. But so when I lost this fish, it went, and because it was only I was fishing close, I didn't need the boat for that particular rod to land them. But then, so I had the bite, and it's gone in, it's flown off into the weed, and I can feel it coming, and I've got it out of the weed. You know, it rocks the water on the surface, and it rocked the water, and then I just felt its head go like that, and then the hook's out. And I thought, fucking hell, I don't, and it really, really hurt, because you don't want to lose fish on there, really. They're so big, and I just got thinking, are they feeding? Because I'd waited a couple of days that particular time for that rod to go, I thought, they've definitely cleared me out. There's no, you know, they've 100% cleared me out. Why haven't I had a bite? So then, because the water was quite murky, the weed was still bad, but the water was a lot more murky than I've known it in years before. I thought, you know, they might be sight feeding, hence why I put a fluoro on. And in the end, I got them all on they were either sort of pink perils, milky malts, or PBs, which are white, pink, and yellow. And it didn't really matter a shit which one I put on which one, because I think they were sight feeding.
Mate.
Up there for thinking, down there for dancing.
Mate, thanks very much for coming on the show. And as soon as we're out of this predicament, we want to see you back in the studio. We can do something in here, hopefully, as well.
Well, do you think you'll have had a haircut by then? Because you, like I say,
probably not.
Probably not.
Like you've been dug up, to be honest.
Well, I said I think it's falling out, so that might beat him to it.
Yeah.
We've just had this discussion off camera. I mean, I'm not one to spread rumours, bullshit, or drop you in the shit. But if you get a better camera angle, you can see his little island on the top.
Yeah.
Well, it was Toby that noticed that last time, wasn't it, Toby?
Yeah, I sent him a picture.
Toby, you haven't got room talk. You're hardly, you know, blessed with a massive mane.
No, that's very true.
You've got your dad's hairline.
Absolutely, I have. I'll thank him for that.
Mate, thanks for coming on the show. We'll see you soon. Take care, okay?
Cheers, Ian. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks. Right, our final guest on the show first came on the podcast on episode 4. Crikey, Tobe, that seems a long time ago now.
Long time ago, wasn't it?
Pleasant memories. So coming up on the show now, our final guest, Julian Cundiff. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back. Yeah, was it a year and a... Yeah. Oh, goodness me, was it November 2019? I can't remember.
19, yeah. And I'd like to say you are our first non-Korda guest as well, which was a bit of a benchmark for us, really, wasn't it? At least everybody knew that we weren't going to have just Korda people on the show.
Yeah, and I think it was really good. It was, I think it was the first time that a lot of your audience will have seen me for a long time with not being on, you know, the Korda platforms. Although I obviously was with Korda, and I've been a fan of the guys for years. I mean, I was in the first 2 Korda books.
Yeah. No, it was good. I mean, it's good that, you know, Nash and Korda, I mean, obviously because you are a Nash-sponsored angler, but it's nice that, you know, the companies have got a bit of an agreement there and we're allowed to speak to each other a little bit. That's good, isn't it?
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, fantastic.
But what you were saying before, that some people had actually forgotten that you'd actually, you were still going fishing as well, which is...
I know, yeah. I still get it. Go, oh, have you done anything since Angling Times? I said, well, that was 2001. Yeah. Done a bit since then, but it's the same in it. You know, our heroes in cycling, our heroes in all sports. You know, whatever happened to Sete Gibernau, whatever happened to, you know, Alonso, you can soon be forgotten. But
hey, he's back. He's back next year. This year, though, isn't he? This season. That's exciting, isn't it?
Fernando Alonso, yeah. We'll see how good he is.
We'll see. Have you been watching Amazon Prime, that documentary on him?
I haven't seen. Can't afford. I can't afford Amazon Prime and Netflix. Could I have the login?
I thought your pension was like really, really good, Jules.
No comment, my lord.
No, you should watch that. Being a Formula One fan, it's it's good watching the different disciplines. He can race anything. That guy, he is.
Yeah. A big fan of his. He's a character. He's a Schumacher, a Senna, an Alonso, and Nick Hellier.
Exactly. I was watching you last night on Instagram as well. You were doing what was that, on day fishing, wasn't it? You were doing a podcast on.
Yeah, day ticket fishing. Yeah, day ticket fishing. Yeah.
Do you enjoy talking about the same stuff? I mean, there's always something different to talk about, but I mean, do you find that there is always something a little bit original that you can talk about?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think if you enjoy something, you could talk about it forever. I mean, I love my cycling, but I'm not passionate about my cycling. So we could talk about cycling for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then it would drift away. But when you really love something, and I absolutely adore fishing, carp fishing, not just catching them, but the history of it, the personalities. So no, I could talk rubbish for years, and I've done.
I guess it means that you need to do a lot of fishing, though, doesn't it? And luckily, you can do that.
Yeah, it's really weird. I have had times where through, whatever, death of a parent or breakup of a relationship or exams, where you don't go fishing as much. And you always think, well, I'm going to have plenty to write about. And literally within weeks, no matter how much you fished before, the well dries up. And it's only by fishing regularly that you can actually continue to inspire people and inspire yourself. You can't do it if you're not going regularly, and you can see it in people's writings. I mean, I do like my Throwback Thursdays, but the more I go, the more you think, oh, that's interesting. And, fishing probably 3 days a week now, or 3 short sessions a week, there's always something that surprises me that I want to get across to people.
Are you self-conscious about that when you go fishing, or is it just you go fishing, you got a good memory and you can just remember, what's relevant to write and talk about?
I'm one of the few people who doesn't like being filmed on the bank, because I feel that turns it from a passion to a job. So that's why people don't see me on all the the filming podcasts that you've seen. It's still a passion for me. When I go fishing, I'll take a few pictures and things like that. And sometimes I think I can't be bothered to do them, but I quite enjoy it. But my mind is always active. Oh, that's interesting to write about. That's interesting. Yeah. I just like to go fishing and pass it on to other people.
Would you turn down doing that stuff, Jules, or would you still do it if you were given, if you're asked to do it?
I've turned it down time and time again. It's not for me. It's not really what I do. It needs to be a passion, not a job. And of course, if I had to do it, I probably would do it. But to be honest, if somebody said to me, you've got to do one a month every month, I wouldn't be a consultant. That's not my kind of thing. And, it has cost me consultancies. It's cost me work in the magazines. But what it's meant, it's a short-term loss. It's a long-term gain.
Yeah, right.
I'm still as passionate now as I was 35 years ago.
Yeah. No, you need to keep that regulated a little bit, don't you? Otherwise, you can just... What would you be like as a presenter? Because, I mean, when you're doing TV stuff, I mean, there's a different element to that as well, isn't there?
I think the problem with me is when I'm obviously talking to people, shows, things like that, I'm very outgoing. I'm really Mr. Personality. But when I go fishing, it's just really me and the fishing. I'm not the kind of person who wants to talk to people. I'm not antisocial as such, but I would say 95% of my fishing is on my own. And, I love it when Danny gets excited about catching a fish, and Ali. How they express it outwards is how I feel inwards. I wouldn't be a great personality for a fishing program, because that's not who I am. Ali is who he is. Alan Blair who he is. But there aren't enough Red Bulls and sugar to get me anywhere near that. That's not my kind. If I do tuitions, I don't fish because I can't do both at once. So my charity tuitions, I generally just spend time with them talking, because if I'm fishing, I'm fishing, and if I'm, tutoring, I'm tutoring. I can't do both at once and still have the same passion.
Would you say you're an extrovert or an introvert? I mean, when you've got to do these big shows and stuff like that, do you get nervous?
No, not at all. Working in court, you can't afford to dry up. So I'm probably, I suppose, an extrovert. But, when I'm at shows, I'll keep my head down. But when I'm giving people attention, I don't go around looking for attention. But anybody who's with me will walk away after 2 minutes and think they're my friend. And I don't mean disparagingly. Everybody gets that attention, but I'm not craving attention. I really don't care about that. But I like the person in front of me to feel special.
Yeah, right. I mean, do you find that once you've done that, is it difficult to, for me with social media and texting and all that stuff, if I've got too many people, I mean, it just takes up so much time. Do you find that as well, that, it's difficult to keep up with having that obligation once people know what you're like? Is it difficult to maintain?
If people congratulate me for something, like whatever, any awards, I'll like it. If people ask me questions, I'll answer them. I always feel difficulty when people, thank me, and I always want to say thank, but it is impossible, because sometimes you might get 1,000 congratulations. But if people ask me a question, I'll always ask that. Yeah, you do feel under pressure, but it's 10 seconds of my life to maybe, it's my giving back, isn't it? It's Danny does what he does with his, giving away stuff. Kevin does. I'm just giving away a bit of my time. If I couldn't do it, I wouldn't do it. But obviously now I'm in a position where I can do it.
Mm. You need to be a very good multitasker to do that. We find that, Toby, as well, don't we, with this? I mean, we probably don't get the amount of questions that you do, but we get enough.
Yeah, we do get a few, and we do our best to... Well, I think I'd like to say we pretty much respond to them all, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I've seen Julian's output on Twitter, and it's impressive to say the least.
I am a good multitasker. I was going to say jiggle my balls, but...
Really?
Different podcast, that one, Jules.
No, I've enjoyed multitasking. Tim Paisley, he taught me, the workload he had and the workload I had. I thought I was busy, watched what he did, and realised that, no, I wasn't busy. And, there are busy people. If you want a job doing, ask a busy person, don't you?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm good at multitasking.
So at the moment we're in the middle of lockdown, and hopefully we're in the middle of lockdown. You never know at the moment, do you, actually?
Yeah.
So we're allowed to do day-only fishing at the moment. Were you surprised when fishing was allowed again for this lockdown?
I was amazed, to be honest, because the first lockdown, it wasn't classed as exercise. It got sneaked in on the second one as sort of a recreational thing, which was great. And when they said exercise again, I thought, well, we're going back to the first one. There's no mention of recreational activities. So I think had the Angling Trust not pushed it, I don't think it would have gone in as a because it wasn't expressly said as a recreational activity. But the Angling Trust getting that in was amazing. And, how anybody can complain they can't do nights or they have to fish local. It's like winning the pool, winning the lottery and complaining about what do I do with all this money? It's unbelievable. It really is. We are so lucky. Talk to a golfer or a tennis player or anything like that. We are absolutely lucky. But if you don't want to go fishing, I'm happy with that. You stay off the lakes. I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, but people now as well. I mean, now they're being forced just to do day-only fishing. It might change a few people's kind of outlook on winter carp fishing anyway now.
Yeah, it makes you a better angler. The less hours you fish, the better you've got to be. I do know quite a few people who do longer sessions, and they're very much more relaxed about things. Whereas people who do short sessions, you watch them and wow. I saw that with Andy Little. We only got 6 hours, and when he'd been catching 35-pounders at Savvy, and yet the intensity he fished for 8 to 17-pounders at Willow Park taught me so many lessons that I use for catching a lot bigger fish. It's that intensity, and I think, it'll make you a better angler. Less time makes you a better angler, and a longer period doesn't make you a better angler, in my opinion.
We just had Damo on the show, and he's one of the very, very best at that. I mean, he'd do 1 night, 2 nights at the absolute max. And he's a big carp angler, isn't he? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, if you want to watch someone efficiently try and catch big fish over a short period of time, I mean, he's just, it's very similar to you, Jules. I mean, it's all about planning, isn't it? I mean, you're the same as well, aren't you? You'll be keying up certain lakes for certain conditions and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think you go back to being a boy, and there was those two, and I said this, I think, on the first podcast, there was the Rod Hutchinson relaxed way, and there was the Kevin Maddox's methodical way. And the Maddox thing always worked for me because I'm not naturally talented at anything particularly. I wasn't, I've not been gifted in anything. Certainly as a scholar, I wasn't. And the way I passed exams eventually was literally repetitive learning. And I realised that I didn't have a talent to read the waters like 1 or 2 people or catch big fish. But the harder I tried, the better my knots were, the more preparation I did, the more I caught. Now, I don't think I would catch any more by being less prepared. I don't think I'm naturally gifted as an angler. There are people who are naturally gifted, but don't put it to great effect. I would say I get the maximum out of myself. If I look back, I don't think I could have done any more other than not have any girlfriends.
I mean, it's good to be able to be obsessive, but be able to control that obsession, isn't it? So, like yourself, I mean, you do a lot of other stuff away from fishing. So when you are fishing, you are completely obsessive, but you can detach yourself from that as well. That's not everyone can do that.
Yeah, I can put myself in the box for fishing when I'm fishing and give it 100%. And I don't sit there catching 9 to 18 pounders thinking, oh, I really should be fishing for 22 to 30 pounders. And it's that ability to focus on what you're doing. A lot of people are not focused, and that's the big failure. They're worried about what everybody else is doing, whether they should be here. As soon as you can actually say, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm doing to the best of my abilities, you become a better angler. Too many people are thinking too far ahead or outside the box, rather than giving it 100% on what they're doing. You see it on the waters all the time.
I listened to you guys talking last night about the ice on lakes and lakes freezing and then thawing out again. I always found that, when a lake is about to freeze, that's a great time to be fishing. If you're on a lake when it's just about to freeze, generally the fish will be very, very active, actually. When it's freezing cold, they get very, very active. And then when it thaws out, that's a fantastic time to be fishing as well. And I guess at the moment, a lot of people are going to be in that situation because lakes are frozen at the moment, aren't they?
Around me, I mean, I think the last session I had was Friday of the previous week. We're recording this, and it was really cold. And you got a feeling that was the day to get a bite because you knew the next couple of days it was going to be solid. And I caught 2 really good fish late afternoon. And the last one, I was playing it for ages. And I put my net on the wooden stanchion, and I'm you start to lift your net up, and it was like stuck to the wood. No, not too bad because obviously it was fairly dry at the time. But I netted the fish, put the fish on the unhooking mat, did the pictures, put the fish back, and then lifted the mesh of the landing net, and up came the unhooking mat as well, and it was frozen. Next day it was completely done. Those fish know when a freeze up's coming, I'm sure. Absolutely sure. So
you noticed that on that session, did you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we would call it sixth sense, but I call it experience. You sort of get a feeling for the better times, or when you really need to go. Never put off anything. If you think there's a chance of catching them, go. Because if you go the next day and somebody's in the swim, or it's frozen, or something else comes up, you can't rewind time.
Have you looked at where you're likely to catch fish from when a lake starts to thaw out? I mean, have you noticed any particular patterns with that?
Yeah. I always look at where the lake first thaws out and where it last freezes, and that's usually a good spot. You see around the edges of certain islands, that's definitely where they're holding up. and you often see in the middle areas, I don't know whether the carp have congregated there, and I'm convinced I always make a mental note of those areas, because those are the areas you last catch from and first catch from. You know, it's quite, and I've been a bit sneaky on one or two of my last sessions. When I put pictures up on social, I'll never lie, but I always point my rods in a certain direction, which might not always be the direction I'm fishing. I would never, if somebody asked me, I'd tell them.
Yeah.
I would never misled anybody with fishing, but I don't want to make it too easy, especially if I'm coming back the next day.
Do you find that they do shoal up just before the lake freezes?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm not saying the lot. You know, if there's 50 fish in the water, all 50 be together, but it wouldn't surprise me to see 3 or 4 big shoals of fish in certain areas. Yeah, I mean they definitely shoal up. Where there's one, there's often 2 and sometimes 3. So as soon as I've caught one, that fish is left in the net, and it's straight. That snip the rig off, overcast, bit of tape. I don't even use wrapping sticks. It's just the tape, as I usually do. Rig on, out again, and literally that day I had a fish within about 15 minutes of it going back on the spot.
What sort of size are the feeding spells at the moment for you, do you find?
I would say the feeding spells are about 3:15 to 4 o'clock. But I like to have my when I'm fishing it, when the cast is right. And I tend to like to get my rods in position about 2, half 2 in those bite spells. And sometimes when the cast just feels right. The line lays. I'm not saying you get the thud, but it just feels right. And if it goes in right at 2:15, I'll leave it. I'll leave it all the time. And if it doesn't go in right, I'll redo it straight away.
Any theories for why you think that 45-minute spell is better than any other periods of the day?
I just think that I think it's the period of light. I think light is a big thing. A lot of these waters I'm fishing have been fished by matchmen, coarse anglers, and carp anglers who pack in at 3 o'clock. They get there at first light and they fish till, and you can see by 1 o'clock the twitchy feet, the walking around the swim, the chatting. And by 3 o'clock, a lot of carp anglers, it's what I call the Sunday 12 o'clock. Anglers who fish weekends are always gone for 12 noon on Sunday. And on a day ticket waters, a lot of anglers are gone by 3 o'clock. And I think there's that period of the bait's gone in, it's more safe, there's less noise, the light levels, it's not starting to drop cold again. I just think that those are the periods.
And I mean, it's quite a short period as well, isn't it? Do you think they're feeding really, really hard in that period, or they're still picking around, but they're just more likely to get picked
around? I've not seen evidence of lots of, because I tend to bait one spot as well with free offerings soaked in oils. And if I see slicks over there, I'll put a bait on it. But that's probably 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 sessions. And it doesn't bother me that there's bait I'm not fishing over, because I think the productive waters are waters that keep having bait going in. So if there's fish there and I'm getting slicks, I'll put a bait on it. If there's no slicks, I don't think the fish are feeding there. So I'm not missing anything. So it's like an additional spot plus feeding the fish.
You've reminded me, actually. I want you to talk about that little tip you told us about the camera, because we were actually setting up a camera with Damo the other day, and he had his camera around the wrong way, Jules. And when he turned it around the other way, the picture was so much better. Do you want to just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. A lot of the time, I use my normal mobile phone for pictures. Which is a Samsung S9, but other makes are available, as they say. And I noticed that when I fished on my own and took myself takes with the camera, and always you have the camera screen facing you, you size it up, etc., etc. And yet when I give it to other people to take pictures of me, the pictures they took, I'm not saying they were better framed, but the quality was better. And I thought, what's going wrong here? So you clean the outside of the camera, clean the back, but the pictures they invariably took of me, they may not have been framed properly, but the quality was better. And then I just thought, well, of course it is. because when they take a picture of me, they're looking at the screen and they're using the best camera to take the image of me. Yet when I take a picture of myself, I'm looking at the screen and the better camera is looking away from myself. And I thought, what a stupid,
Well,
why have I don't know what the megapixels are, but on a lot of cameras, you've got the normal camera you take the picture with is 20 megapixels. And the other one, the second camera, is like 4 megapixels. It's 5 times less the quality. So what I did is I realised, that's what's, that's why the quality of the pictures has not been good. So invariably, when I go fishing on waters where people are not going to be walking round, I get me bank stick, I screw it in, I set the little phone holder, and what I do is I set the unhooking mat up, and because I've done it so often, I literally know that I want to be about 3 feet away. It's not like an SLR where you can be further away. If you're 6-8 feet away with a mobile phone, you are a little pinprick in the distance. You can come very, very close with a mobile phone. So I'll literally stick my bank stick in, put my phone, and the camera itself, that the screen itself is facing me looking at there, but the actual better camera is looking at the unhooking mat. So as long as the unhooking mat is in each side of it and is in focus, is in the screen, then that's fine. And I've got what I call a whistle app on, and that is absolutely brilliant. The only thing we're doing self-timer photos is always make sure that your mobile phone camera, you can't see the screen, because therefore the better camera is looking at you, and that the mobile phone is level with the fish at least. You don't want the mobile phone on the, low looking up, otherwise you'll get the sausage fingers, all the fish, and you'll be peering over the top. So always have the camera at least level with the body of the fish, and preferably just above. So if you're looking just slightly at the top of the fish, it works better that way, and you get far better. And I use the whistle app, absolutely brilliant. A whistle app all the time.
We've seen a few examples of that sort of looking up sort of photography recently, haven't we?
Yeah. My friend Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden, and we always giggle about this. I always know when he's fishing on his own. Adrian's not bothered about pictures, to be quite honest. That's not his thing. But I always say to him, put it on a bank stick, not on a bait, because you see people with cameras rested on bait buckets and things like that. Just get yourself a normal screwing bank stick, a little adapter to hold it. It takes, if you're fishing on your own, it takes probably a minute to set your camera up. That's all it takes. And it depends how much you want good pictures. I just want a decent picture. I'm not bothered about the SLR pictures unless I'm fishing for huge fish. But I just don't want to be disappointed by my pictures.
No, me neither. And we did notice a difference, Toby, as well, didn't we? So
Exactly.
that was a great tip, that, Jules. It sounded like I actually knew what I was talking about the other day.
You do realise in about 10 years' time, this will be reinvented, like the Ronnie rig or the helicopter rig. Somebody will come up with it and patent it.
I'm sure.
The camera with a K. Camera.
Make sure
Quick, I write that down.
Yeah, I was going to say that'd be a nice pension, that will, Jules. Yeah, we'll remember that. So for the rest of the week, Jules, what are you up to?
Today I'm doing a bit more writing. Tomorrow I'm going to go to what I call the Fountain Lake, because that will be unfrozen still, and I'll be doing a day session on there. Again, that's a water that doesn't turn on probably till about 11 in the morning, so I'm in no rush to get there. And then I'm hoping that one of my better lakes, which is still within the radius, will be unfrozen Thursday, Friday. So I've got 3 short sessions planned this week.
Bit of work in the gym, no cycling at the moment, I suppose.
I did cycle on Saturday, and if it's I might go tomorrow morning. But it's really cold. I have fallen off twice in the years on ice, and it is painful.
Yeah, I was being a bit sarcastic. I didn't think you'd actually go out on a bike in the snow. Actually,
he called you bluff there.
He really did.
I've been out and come back in the snow. Yeah. 10 or 15 miles. There's something about it getting out in the fresh air. Again, once you wrap up, it's great. But the worst thing about cycling in the cold is you've got so many layers on. When you go fishing in winter, and you've got all the layers on, it's not as much fun. And when you get to the summer, you've just got your jeans or your t-shirt or whatever, it's different. It's the same with cycling. When you're carrying 5 layers, you know, it's hard work, but it's whether you enjoy it or not. And it's just a different way. Yeah,
I heard you guys saying again last night. I was listening, see. You were talking about borrowing kit around the lake with too many layers on and then sweating.
Oh, yeah.
I know that from mountaineering as well. Never ever start hot. Always start cold. So layer down and then add layers. You know, it's once you sweat, you've had it in the cold.
You cannot take that water out of your body. So, you know, it's. And I think the big problem is people also get in the car with all the coats on. And, you know, you see people in the car and you think, how warm are you in that car? So, you know, before I set off, I'll make sure my car's warmed up. I'll just have, you know, just a normal lightweight jump like this on. When I get to the lake, you're warm anyway. I might put a top jacket on, but during the day, I'll layer up. You know, I'll put my gloves and I'll put my hat on. But, you know, when I see some people and they wear so many clothes barrowing, and, you know, it's once that sweat comes, you're done.
They're going to be colder. They're definitely going to be colder. You know, I think people want to start warm, don't they? And they can't. Yeah. It's hard for them to kind of just accept. Look, in 5-10 minutes time, you will be warm. Once you've carted all this gear, you will be warm anyway. But it's like, no, I want to be warm straight away, and it's not. It's not the one. It's not the one.
Yeah, I mean, carp fishing's hard enough at this time of year without it being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, when people go back and say, "Oh, it was better in the olden days." Bloody well wasn't. It was freezing. It was jeans. It was white trainers. It was 2 pairs of football socks. It was 2 jumpers and a Mac. It was freezing. The stuff we got now makes it so much easier. There was nothing about the olden days that was better at all, other than there was less people doing it.
Less anglers, yeah. Right.
Less anglers, that's the only. No, it's never been so good. Never been so good.
Mm.
I blame it on that bloke who made all them leads. He ruined it.
He might be watching this. You never know.
I think he'd probably smile.
He would.
I remember seeing him all those years ago, walking around the conference centre with his little box of leads and showing me them. It literally was an easel. I thought, what's he talking about? And that's why he's Danny and I'm Julian.
Right, Jules. That half an hour's gone pretty quick, actually.
Wow.
Thanks.
Wow.
Thanks very much for coming on the show. Also,
thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's absolutely great. I love carp fishing and I love anything that inspires people. And the Korda videos are national. They all inspire people. You know, let's get out there and catch a few.
Absolutely, Jules. Couldn't agree more. Right. Thanks to Damian and to Iain for coming on the show. And thank you all for watching or listening too. We'll see you again soon.
The Think and Tackle Podcast.